Tonight we are looking at 3 horrifying caving stories that went horribly wrong. At Zacatón in Mexico, a deep diver takes the one regulator with no label on it, 45 meters down the deepest flooded sinkhole on Earth. In the SARAWAK Chamber, 3 cavers lose the only wall in a room big enough to swallow 10 cathedrals. And in Titan, a rockfall cuts a climber rope to the core while he hangs above the floor of the deepest shaft in Britain. Each story starts with confidence and ends in chaos. As always, viewer discretion is advised. On April 14th, 2026, Annika Visser slipped into warm green water in a Mexican cattle field and started down Zacatón, the deepest water-filled sinkhole on Earth, a flooded shaft that drops 319 meters into the dark. The water is blood warm. The bottom might as well be the moon. She was diving with one support partner, a planned bounce to 100 meters on trimix, 8 minutes at depth, and a 2-hour ladder of gas switches on the way back up. Annika was 38 years old, a deep technical diver with 900 dives across 13 years. The one European teams flew in when a project went past 100 meters. Her habit was tape. Every regulator she owned carried its gas and its switch depth written on the hose in white tape. Because at depth, she told her students, you do not read a cylinder. You read the thing you are about to put in your mouth. The plan was strict. 100 meters, 8 minutes, every switch at its taped depth. Here is what you need to understand about deep gas. The oxygen that keeps you alive at the surface becomes a poison under pressure, and a rich deco mix breathed too deep can throw a diver into convulsions with no warning at all. A seizure underwater is survivable on its own. What ends it is the regulator falling from a mouth that can no longer hold it. The descent ran perfectly. 2 lights dropping down the warm black shaft, regulators hissing slow and even, a cylinder clanging once against a D-ring, fin wash scraping softly past the wall, the support diver stopping at 45 meters with the deco cylinders while Annika went on alone. At 100 meters, she leveled off in water as black as space, logged her 8 minutes of readings, and turned for the surface exactly on schedule. What she couldn't know, the dive was already decided, 45 meters above her head. At 45 meters, that is when the tape failed her, because the cylinder the support diver held out was a borrowed one, rigged the night before with a bare hose, the one regulator in the water that carried no tape at all. It held 50% oxygen, a gas that is safe at 21 meters and a poison at 45. What she didn't know, taking the offered regulator in the dark, her habit had been protecting her for 13 years, and the one hose without writing on it was the one that mattered, and the clock it started could not be seen on any gauge. Panic never got its turn. The gas hit her first. Her jaw seized tight. She convulsed at depth. Her partner saw her light spin away. Because this is the arithmetic of oxygen at pressure. At 45 meters, a 50% mix is more than double its safe dose, and the time from first breath to convulsion can be under 3 minutes. One diver seizing in open black water, one partner 3 meters away, and a regulator already falling from her mouth in slow motion. Watch the support diver do everything the manuals ask. First, pin the regulator back against her mouth with one hand and hold her jaw shut around it. Second, dump the wrong gas. Get her onto his own long hose and start up, because the only treatment for oxygen poisoning is less pressure, and less pressure means ascending through stops she now owed. Put yourself in that water for 1 minute of it. A friend rigid and shaking in your hands. A shaft with no floor and no walls within reach, and a choice between the bends and a drowned diver with 10 seconds to make it. He held her jaw shut for 4 minutes of slow ascent, gauges ticking against tanks in the black, watching bubbles leak from the corner of her mouth, feeling the seizure fade into stillness somewhere around 30 meters. At 21 meters, the stillness told him what the black water would not, and he kept climbing anyway, because that is what you do. He surfaced with her in the green light of the cattle field 40 minutes later, having skipped half his own decompression to do it. The ranch hands pulled them both out of the water.
For one of them, there was still something to be done, and the helicopter did it. Annika Visser died of oxygen toxicity and drowning at Zacatón, on a gas that would have been perfectly safe 24 meters shallower. Her partner survived with a mild bend and hearing damage. The borrowed regulator was still in the water when the recovery team found it, hanging off the line at 45 meters, its hose bare and white. The inquiry ruled the death an incorrect gas switch following an unlabeled regulator, and the project changed one rule that season. No cylinder enters the water without its mix and switch depth taped on the hose, and every borrowed rig is taped by the diver who will breathe it, with 0 exceptions in the 3 seasons since. The deepest water-filled sinkhole on Earth still sits blood-warm in its cattle field, still 319 meters to the floor. Divers still come for it every winter, and the taping rule has her name on it in the project handbook, beside the inquiry's verdict and the recovery report. You do not read a cylinder, Annika used to tell her students at the water's edge. You read the thing you are about to put in your mouth. 24 meters was the whole difference. Right on the hose. On May 2nd, 2026, Dana Whitehorse waded up a river passage in the Mulu rainforest and climbed into the SARAWAK Chamber, the largest underground chamber on Earth and the deepest dark in Borneo, a single void 600 meters long and 400 wide, big enough to hold 10 cathedrals and lose them in the dark. No lamp reaches its walls. No lamp reaches its roof. She was leading 2 others on a photography push. Crossed the chamber along the south wall, 4 hours of work at the far end, and back the same way. Dana was 47 years old, a wildlife ranger from Montana who had logged 21 years and 9 Mulu seasons underground, and who told her daughters she was birdwatching, the one the team trusted in spaces too big to see. Her habit was sound. At every stop, she made the group stand silent for 10 seconds and point at the river. Because in a chamber this size, she told them, your eyes will lie long before your ears do. The plan was simple. Hug the south wall, with a rope line rigged back to it at the far end. Never let go, because a caver who loses that wall is lost in a single room. Here is what you need to understand about the SARAWAK Chamber. It is not a big cave room. It is a piece of the night sky with a floor, and the floor is a boulder field the size of 40 football pitches. In open air, your beam always finds something. In here, it finds nothing, in every direction, and a caver 10 meters from a wall they cannot see is already lost. What she didn't know yet, the meaning of that would arrive at the 6th boulder. The crossing went well for 2 hours, boots grinding over breakdown, the river hissing faintly below the boulders, a tape measure clicking out now and then for the record, 3 beams hopping block to block in easy rhythm, and the south wall riding along beside them the whole way, a gray presence on their right that none of them thought to doubt. Then, a slot in the boulder field forced them left, 1 block, then another, a small detour they had made a dozen times in smaller caves. What they didn't know, this room does not forgive detours. 6 blocks out, that is when the route failed them, because a detour that cost 10 meters in an ordinary cave had cost 60 in a void this size, and the gray presence on their right had dissolved into nothing without any of them seeing it go. 3 beams went out into the dark and found no wall, no roof, and no landmark in any direction. What she didn't know yet, standing on a boulder in the middle of a shapeless black, the compass was next to useless among the iron-stained blocks, and their footprints did not exist on bare stone. And that habit, 10 silent seconds, point at the river, was about to become the only map the chamber could not erase. Panic moved through the 3 of them. The wall was gone. All 3 were trapped. The dark had no edges anywhere. Nobody said the word out loud.
Because this is the arithmetic of scale blindness. The floor covers 160,000 square meters, and 3 people wandering it at random can miss the only exit by 100 meters, every pass, all night. 3 cavers in one room the size of a stadium, 9 lights that reach 30 meters, and an exit that is a black slot in a black wall they cannot find. Watch the woman who had trained for exactly this moment spend 21 years of habit on a decision that looked, from outside, like nothing at all. First, everyone sits. Lights off. 10 seconds becomes 2 minutes of silence in the biggest dark on Earth. Second, point at the river. 3 arms come up in the blackness, and 2 of them agree. Put yourself on that boulder for 1 minute of it. A dark so complete your eyes invent shapes in it. A room that answers no echo. And the sound of water, faint as breathing, that is either the way home or the way past it. They move toward the river sound in 50-meter legs, stopping to sit and listen again at the end of each one, letting their ears correct what the boulders did to their line. On the 4th leg, the youngest dropped a boot between 2 blocks and went down hard, and the ankle swelled inside the boot before Dana had the lace cut. They made a 3-person chain over the boulder field after that, the hurt man in the middle with an arm over each of their shoulders, 1 careful block at a time, feeling every edge before trusting it. 2 hours of that, for ground that had taken them 20 minutes on the way in. The river sound became a river, and the river became the black slot of the entrance passage, and the beams finally touched a wall. They came down the river passage at 2 in the morning, the hurt man between them, 7 hours late and entirely alive. Dana sat in the rainforest dark outside and listened to the river for a long time, on purpose, before she said anything at all. All 3 cavers survived on 2 minutes of silence and 1 broken ankle, and the expedition's report ruled it a navigation failure by scale. Chamber crossings now run on a fixed compass bearing with a counted pace log, and no team leaves the wall without a rope line back to it. The largest underground chamber on Earth, the deepest dark in Borneo, still sits under the Mulu rainforest, 600 meters of it with no shape at all. Teams still cross it every season, on bearings now with pace counts, and the briefing quotes her by name. 3 cavers trapped by pure scale, and sound brought them home. Your eyes will lie long before your ears do, Dana tells the new ones at the river. So sit down, turn them off, and point at the water. It took 3 of us home from 60 meters off the wall. On February 11th, 2026, Marcus Reed dropped through a manhole ring in a Derbyshire hillside and into Titan, the deepest natural shaft in Britain, 141 meters of black limestone falling in a single sweep beneath the Peak District. It rains in there when it rains outside. The shaft is a throat. He was descending with 1 partner, down the big pitch to the boulder floor, 3 hours photographing the lower series, and back up the same rope. Marcus was 36 years old, a school technician from Sheffield who spent every weekend underground, a vertical caver with 14 years and 500 pitches behind him, the one his club sent down anything with a long, free hang in it. His habit was the knot. He made every student tie an alpine butterfly with their eyes shut, one-handed, until they hated him. Because the day you need to isolate damaged rope, he said, is the day you will not be able to see it. The forecast gave them 6 dry hours. The plan used 4. What he didn't know, the mountain had spent all winter getting ready for them. Here is what you need to understand about Titan. The shaft breathes with the weather. Rain on the hill above arrives as a waterfall down one wall within the hour, and the spray reaches everything. And a 100-meter rope under load hangs beside walls that winter is slowly taking apart. Frost, thaw, frost again, until some flake of limestone lets go of the mountain. The descent ran clean, carabiners clicking home at the ledge rebelay, boots scraping off wet rock, water dripping steadily down the far wall, the rope humming through descenders, 2 lamps dropping through a blackness with weight to it, 141 meters of it. The manhole ring above shrinking to a gray coin and then to nothing at all.
They worked the boulder floor for 2 hours, photographing the base of the great shaft, and started up with the weather still holding. What he didn't know, clipping onto the rope, 40 meters up, the wall above him had already failed. It just hadn't fallen yet. Marcus was 40 meters up the rope, that is when the wall let go, because a freeze-cracked flake the size of a door had been waiting out the winter directly above the hang, and the spray of a building storm finally unstuck it. The rockfall missed him by body lengths and did not miss the rope. What he knew, swinging in the dark with dust still falling past his lamp, somewhere above him the sheath was cut to the core, and his full weight was hanging on the half of the rope that was left. And that habit, a knot tied blind 1,000 times, was now the entire plan. Panic came up the rope at him. The strands were cut. The storm was coming. He was trapped mid-shaft. His partner was still on the floor. Because this is the arithmetic of damaged rope. A cut sheath fails without notice under a moving load. 100 meters of Titan takes 40 minutes to climb, and the rain that would double the waterfall was 1 valley away. 1 caver on half a rope. 60 meters of shaft above the damage, and a storm walking toward the hill with all the time in the world. Watch a man do the thing he had rehearsed for 14 years and never used. First, climb gently to the damage. No bounce, no rhythm, a jammer's width at a time. Second, find the wound with his fingers, core showing white in the lamp, and tie it out with an alpine butterfly, eyes open this time, hands doing it the blind way anyway. Put yourself on that rope for 1 minute of it, a knot forming a meter above your head, spray thickening on the back of your neck, and every rule you ever taught coming back at you in your own voice. He passed the knot in the dark, descender off, jammers over, descender on. The maneuver he had drilled into strangers 100 times, now done 50 meters over his own grave. Below him, his partner waited flat against the wall, out of the fall line, calling up the only useful thing there was, taking his time for him. 30 meters of shaft still stood above the knot, and the spray was thickening by the minute. Marcus came over the lip of the ledge rebelay 20 minutes later, clipped in, and let the shaking have him for a while. He dropped the undamaged top half of the rope back down for his partner, backed it up off the second anchor, and stood watch at the lip while the older man climbed. They came out of the manhole ring into the first fat drops of the storm, and stood in it, and let it rain on them. Both cavers survived on 1 knot and 20 careful minutes, and the club's report ruled it rockfall damage to a live rope. The hang was rebolted 4 meters out from the wall that spring, and every club member now passes a knot on a damaged rope, blindfolded, before they are signed off for Titan. The deepest natural shaft in Britain still breathes with the Derbyshire weather. Its walls still shed what winter cracks loose, and ropes under them can still fail without a sound of warning. Marcus still teaches the butterfly on club nights, eyes shut, one-handed. 60 meters of shaft stood on 1 knot, and the inquiry log says so. Learn it in the dark, he tells them, before you are trapped on half a rope of your own.